At some point in our lives, many of us have found that one person who we feel the ultimate connection to. We are so connected to this person that we decide we must join our lives together and continue this journey called life. Some couples choose to grow their cute twosome into a family with children. One person may work while the other stays home, or one may be extremely driven in their career and aspire for the top, while the other chooses a career less demanding. But what happens when you both want to maintain your ambition and pursue demanding careers? What is the secret formula to finding the balance so everyone gets what they want and no one feels unfulfilled? My name is Ronika Jacobs, and you found my podcast, Strive for More, Your Best Life Now. While there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, you've taken the time out to listen to this one. So for that, I would like to say thank you. So without any further delay, let's get to it. Let's strive for more. I do, you do, we do.
My next guest, Travis and Dr. Atina Young, are striving for more by achieving their high-stakes career goals as a married couple. Travis is a former high school principal who now works in a high-profile position in a school district in Texas. He also just started a doctoral program. Atina recently finished her doctorate a little over a year ago and was an elementary school principal who now works as an educational consultant. They have been married for 17 years and have 2 children. In this episode, Travis and Atina will share their experiences as a couple who have encountered conflicting schedules, work stress, and the ups and downs of life in general. Hi, Atina and Travis. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on my show. How are you guys doing?
Hello, we're doing great.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, good. Awesome. Okay. So, as a couple, I have to ask you this because this is the number one question that all people want to ask a couple is how did you guys meet? So, Atina, can you please share your version of how you guys met?
Sure. I like to think that my version of how we met is the most accurate representation. But I met Travis my senior year in high school. My dad's a pastor, and I was looking for a suit for my dad, and we went to a store at a local mall. And Travis was in there trying on, those tight shirts that guys used to wear back in the late 90s, muscle shirts. And so I asked him to try the suit on, and then he asked me for my number. And so then fast forward some months, I actually beeped him with a beeper because he had a beeper. So I beeped him and just said, give me a call, put my message. And I thought that I was talking to him, but turns out I was actually talking to his cousin because they shared a beeper. Like, who shares a beeper? But anywho, I digress. So when I went to college, then we met the first day of school. He said, hey, do you remember me? And then we just kind of started talking on the phone. And I like to say that he pursued me, but he likes to say otherwise. The rest is history.
Okay, awesome story. Now, Travis, I have to get your version. Not that Atina's version was not accurate, but, we got to let the guys give their spin on what happened. So, Travis, now you share your version.
Actually, I'm going to say that I agree with what she has said, but I would also say I'm just going to add that it was just something special about her when we first met. And, of course, talking to her at college, at our university, I remember calling my mom and saying, Mother, I have found someone that is shorter than me because I'm about 5'4", and so she is shorter than me. And so I remember calling my mom and saying, Mom, I found somebody that's shorter than me. She's very charming, very pretty, very intelligent. I think this is the one. And so I don't know, it was just something about her. I just knew from the very beginning, not even knowing how far, we were going in a relationship, but I just felt like this could be the one. And thank the Lord, she is the one.
Oh, that is amazing. So awesome. All right, now, Travis, both of you have chosen the field of education. What attracted you in particular as an African-American man? What attracted you to this field?
Thank you. That's a great question. First, my grandmother was a custodian in the same school district that I'm currently in now, place where I grew up. And then also my mother is the oldest of 5 children, and her father passed away at an early age. I believe she was maybe 7 or 8, and so she was the oldest of all of them. And I just remember her talking about how family really helped them out and how poor they were growing up. And she only believed that education was her way out of poverty. And so she was able to do that. And so when we were growing up with my mother and my father, she made us believe that they didn't have any money and we had to work for everything. And so in that, it touched me that, hey, my mother believed education was the way out. And so here's a chance in my community where we're about 70% economically disadvantaged that I can make an impact. And one thing I say in the education world is not where our students come from. I'm an advocate of public school education. We can't control where our students are coming from, but we can make an impact on where they would like to go. And in my opinion, there are 3 choices. They can go to college, military, or a career opportunity, and it's our job to get them there. And so that's my belief, and that's what attracts me, and that's what keeps me going.
Oh, wonderful. Atina, what about you?
My story is somewhat similar. I always grew up wanting to play school at my home. My grandmother was also a school custodian at this particular time when I was younger at the school that I attended in a small town in Texas. My dad also is an educator, recently retired last year in June after 36 years with the same school district. He started out as a bus driver, worked his way up to custodian, to a head custodian, and being over all the custodians in this particular district. But I started out wanting to teach. Then I wanted to be a dancer, and then about my sophomore year in high school, I really got into the medical field, and I thought that I wanted to be an optometrist. So when I went to college, I majored in biology, still kept some of those things in my career path. But it was my junior year in college where one of our good friends, I was an orientation leader, asked me to teach a class. It was like student orientation for students on campus. It was their first year, and I absolutely loved it. Now, as you know, biology is a very hard track collegiate-wise, and I was not about to change all of those hours. So I went ahead and I graduated and then went back and got my alternative certification, and then I began teaching. And what I quickly noticed with teaching, not only is it me giving back, but I really have found I'm an advocate for those who look like me. I remember on my first campus there in our department, well, actually on our campus, I think there were only 1% of us were African American. And so several of us got together. We started our very first African Black History program on the campus. I became Teacher of the Month that month. We also did a girls empowerment group, and so it's blossomed. I mean, I go back sometimes and I get to see the ceremony, and to think that my partner teacher and I started that in the early 2000s, and here it is 2020, and it is truly blossomed from that middle school all the way up to now the high school. So it gives me an opportunity to really look at, like Travis said, it doesn't matter where you come from, but where you're going. And I always strive to make sure that I am that role model for them, so that they can see that you can do anything that you put your mind to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, now, Atina, this question is for you. At one point, you were a principal, a doctoral student, a wife, and a mother. How did you manage all of that?
Lots of prayer and lots of Starbucks. I'm going to be honest with you. My former staff members know every time we had something, they would slip a Starbucks card on my desk or send me an email. But it was very, very hard. It didn't come easy, but I'm the type of person that if I write something down, in the beginning of each new year, this is a tradition our family just started. We do a vision board. This was before vision boards were even popular. And so I would write them down. Here's what I want to accomplish this year. And then at the end of the year, I would go back and reflect. Oh, my God, I did this, and this. And I may not have completed everything. And so that was one of my goals, was to be a doctor. Remember earlier I said I thought I was going to be an optometrist. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this. It was a lot of family support. There were family members who came out of the woodwork. My husband, I will tell you, was absolutely amazing. And I think that it came at a pivotal time because when Travis transitioned from a high school principal to central office, I went into the principal role, and it gave us an opportunity to kind of offset some of those responsibilities. So instead of me taking the children to school every day, he did an awesome job of making sure they were at school. Now, I still had to pick out clothes and stuff and get them set up and, get alerts on my phone and computer, but I think it allowed us as a system. So we have a calendar, and we truly lived by that calendar. And so I will tell you, it was kind of disheartening because you had some people who would say, you don't come around anymore, and you seem to choose this over that, but not knowing that when you're in the trenches as a doctoral student, you truly have to pick and choose what it is you can go to based on the assignments that you're given. And so those that were the support system, I truly thank them. They know who they are, and so they really, really stepped up to the plate without the judgment to make sure that this lifelong dream was accomplished, but also allowing me to still maintain my professional and personal life.
Wow. So we know that in order to succeed as a couple, one of the strategies people say is that, the marriage really has to be an ebb and flow for each of the partners at different times. So now, Travis, I know you just started your doctoral program, and Atina has completed hers first. So was that by design, or did you decide to obtain this degree later? Like, how did y'all work that out on, who goes first, or, how did y'all determine that?
Well, I would actually say it's a communication thing from the very beginning. I worked on my master's back in the early 2000s, and I started off as a teacher coach, and of course knew I had a son on the way. We were expecting our first child, and so I completed my master's, and at that time moved into administration from the teacher coach world. And so at that time, Tina, my wife, also went and got her master's, and so we have sort of found that balance and just with communication. And so this was by design. We had talked, and sometimes as the head of the household, a lot of times things I would be first, and so we've discussed, and she was definitely motivated to become a doctor, and a few years back I worked on my superintendent certification, and so we have sort of worked that out and had some great discussions. Now, sometimes the discussions could be challenging, but as husband and wife, we have worked it out. And so, yes, this was by design. And so I'm excited for my wife, definitely proud of her. That's Dr. Young. And so now the only thing left is for me to complete my doctorate. And I think we're through with schooling, and before you know it, our kids will be in school.
Yes, communication is key, and I commend you guys and applaud you guys for making sure that you keep communication at the forefront of your relationship. Now, I know that you mentioned before, Dr. Young, that you guys used a calendar and you were implementing a system. And, of course, we know that everything each person has in the household is in what they are doing is important. So one is not, more important than the other. And it's not always to plan your work schedule around your home schedule or plan your family schedule around your work schedule. And with having, high-profile jobs, being leaders of a school or educational institution, sometimes things are non-negotiable. So how did you guys manage all the schedules from your kids' schedules to your schedules? How do you guys manage all of that?
So just as I mentioned earlier, we have a calendar. I'm starting to move the family towards an electronic calendar because now everyone has devices. But what we do is in our kitchen we have a calendar, and I redo it every month. Everybody has their own color code. And so I try to look out as the calendar as far, because our son is into agriculture. He shows animals. He's also into basketball. Our daughter is in competition dance, and then you have us, and we're, both active in our roles professionally, but we also are active in other civic organizations and our respective sororities and fraternities. So everybody has a color on the calendar, and so I try my best to make sure that everyone is where they're supposed to be, and then I now send an electronic confirmation so that no one says, well, I didn't know. But on top of that, Travis and I communicate. Okay, if the younger one has something going on, well, let me take her at this time, and then, you'll take her the next time, so that we can balance out our schedules. And like I said, sometimes it's not easy. As a mom, I will tell you, as a female principal, I had a lot of mommy guilt, and I had to have conversations with my mentors and others that are in the same position, and they were like, it's okay. And it's okay to let your husband delegate, because I always felt like, yeah, he'll get them there, but what if they're missing A, B, and C, And so I truly had to really live out the character of being truly trustworthy with my spouse and trustworthy with my children, to know that they were going to do what they needed to do to get where they needed to go. And it just, kind of, it was a little rocky at first, but it makes us a better family unit.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that you all found a system that works for your family, and that as you go along, and you'll find other ways to, improve that system, because as leaders, you understand process improvement. If it doesn't work, then, you either make systematic changes or systemic changes. Okay. So Travis, you are the husband, of course. And traditionally, as you mentioned it before, the husband is the head of the household. He provides the direction. And so when someone uses terms like breadwinner or provider, what do those terms mean to you? How do they resonate with you?
Well, I would definitely say from the traditional marriage, family, breadwinner, provider, I think over years it's been a shift. As the head of the household here, I do take on the bulk of the bills or things that we have to take care of, but also feel like that there's also a communication between Atina and I. We look at what we have to take care of. We look at what we need to save. She does a great job of keeping me in line when it comes to budget, because I do like to spend. But when it comes to breadwinner and provider, again, I do believe in taking care of everything, and I do believe in trying to take the bulk of everything on, but it's also a balance, because we're, again, looking at our kids, thinking down the road, hey, they're going to be at a college or university in the near future. We also want to make sure one day when we retire, we're able to do that successfully. And so it's a balance. Again, I think back in the late 90s or going to the 80s, those days, the husband paid everything. I think this day and age, you see a more balance, or, normally the husband is still the breadwinner, but there's also a balance there. And I think that's through communication, and to each household, they work those things out. But I think my wife and I, we do a great job of communicating when it comes to that. But definitely, I will always provide for my family and be supportive of my wife and the kids.
So wonderful. I just want to say I appreciate that from you, because he is telling the truth. I am the most frugal person you will probably meet. I actually count how much we're going to spend at the grocery store and make sure we do not go over that amount. So I truly appreciate him for acknowledging that.
That's awesome. All right. So you guys are parents, which we know, there are lots of duties, and then you're parents of 2 children, a son and a daughter, and then you are active in your community as leaders, and then, of course, you are in leadership roles in your job. So, of course, the two of you together is the glue that holds everything together. So how do you make sure that you find time for each other to keep the relationship solid?
Tina, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah, that would be fine. This is an area that since COVID-19, we have really sat down and we've had to talk about, because COVID-19 happened so fast. And while we thought that we had a system because of so much that has gone on in our roles as educators, we gave ourselves a back seat. But prior to that, we still date each other. I love our date night. And so our son is in middle school, so he has a better social life than we do. It's the young one we have to find care for. So we also have a group of married couples that, and we learned this early on when we were getting married, to surround yourself with a married couple that have been in the work, that you can confide in, and that you have a healthy example of. And so that's another way where we keep ourselves solid. We have some that are our age, some that have been married for 20-plus years. And so we try our best to find time for us, even if it's before we go to bed, a quick moment on the sofa, or, lately it's been we watch Netflix or watching TV. So.
And I would add to that, truly, and I think I heard Atina stated, before we even got married, we went through marriage counseling. And one thing I picked up through the biblical sense of it is really understanding your spouse's love language. And so it's a good thing if you have different love languages, but really understanding that person's love language. We joke with each other, communicate with one another. And then sometimes, we've been married for 17 years. There have been a lot of great moments, and then there's also times, where we've, sort of need to work on things. And so we've always come back to communication. I still have my consumable workbook that we had from our marriage counseling, and sometimes I'll open it up and, we wrote in those books things. There were certain questions through the marriage counseling that we went through. And so sometimes I would read that, and it just refreshes my memory on things. And then I try to be spontaneous. I'll leave a note on her windshield wiper. On the windshield saying, "Hey, I just want you to know I love you." I'll send a text message, and so just to let her know I'm thinking about her. And then sometimes we get so busy, sometimes I may not do it like I want to, and so I always make a note to myself, "Hey, I need to make sure she knows that I'm thinking about her and I love her." And so my love is still strong as it was on day one, but I would say it's even stronger now.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. I wish you guys, many, many blessings to continue to cover your union and your family. You guys are doing great things. I heard lots of buzzwords like communication and support, and just really being there for each other. So that's amazing. All right, so I have one last question. Now, all of my guests, I like to ask them a question at the end of the interview. It has nothing to do with the topic that we've been talking about. So the question that I have for you guys is, who are your top 5 musicians of all time? And Atina, you can go first.
For me, this is easy. I am an eclectic listener. My favorite artist is Prince. I watched Purple Rain 3 times. The first time it came to the movie theaters when I was 4. I cried when we left. I attended a concert, and I have been a Prince fan since then. My second one would be Whitney Houston. I tend to think that I sound like her when I'm in the car or the shower, but my family and my friends tend to beg a little different. But I love Whitney. Followed by my favorite guy group would be New Edition. Absolutely a big fan of New Edition. I also like country and rock, so I want to include those. But Garth Brooks would be my number 1 country artist that I listen to. I can listen to Garth Brooks on any given day. And for me, hard metal would have to be Guns N' Roses. So those would be my top 5.
Nice. I like that top 5. And Travis, what about you?
All right, and mine is all around as well too. My top 5, I have Jodeci. I'm a big time Jodeci fan. Also, I know you mentioned that we're here in Texas, and so when it comes to Zydeco, I'm a huge Zydeco fan, but Brian Jack would be at the top of my list. We grew up together. Also, Tupac, definitely, when it comes to the rap world. Tupac's one of my favorites. And then I also have to go to the Christian side here, and so Kirk Franklin. I've been listening to Kirk Franklin since the early 90s, and so we continue to listen. Then also I had to finish off with R&B one more time, and I'm going to go with Keith Sweat. Those are my 5.
Wow. Hey, y'all got an awesome list there. There are a couple of artists that y'all mentioned that are probably in my top 5 as well. Well, Dr. Young, because I'm going to go ahead and speak it into an existence, that
Amen.
Y'all are Dr. Young. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the both of you. Atina, can you do me a favor, and can you please take the time out to let everyone know how they can access your blog or follow you on Instagram?
Sure, absolutely. We are currently on Instagram. We have our own Facebook group and Twitter. Our website should be finished by the end of June. We're really excited about that. But the address on Instagram is at The Connecting Principal. The same group on Facebook, The Connecting Principal, and then on Twitter at TCP2.
All right.
Additionally, anyone can also reach out to me with any of the consulting services that we do. Currently, we're doing a lot of virtual interviews and resume writing due to the pandemic, and so I do mock interviews there. But it's at The Connecting Principal, principal with an AL at gmail.com.
Awesome. Any last words of encouragement for married couples who are trying to manage it all?
One thing I would just share is definitely communication is the key. And I think, as Tina said earlier, just make sure you surround yourself with positive married couples that are also, they've been there, and you may want to find some that have, been married a little longer than you, and so that you can have someone to visit with that can help give you guidance. And so, and also keep the faith. I'm a believer in Christ. They prayed up to the Lord, and He'll see you through it.
I have
Wonderful.
to say ditto, because actually some of the ones I was actually going to say. But if I could add some things, choose what works best for you, because what works for someone else may not work for you. Continue to date each other and laugh with each other. Travis truly is the comedian of the group. I'm more serious, and I think that kind of balances each one of us out. Don't try to change anyone, so be accepting of your spouse, and, continue to love on each other. Take each day as it comes.
Yes. Okay. Well, guys, our time is up. I've enjoyed you so much. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show again. I really appreciate you. I wish you nothing but blessings and abundance in your life. Take care.
Yes,
Thank you so much for having us.
While the Youngs have chosen a strategy or system that works for them, it is just a model or an example. Perhaps it will work for you and your spouse. Maybe it will not. When you choose to spend your life with someone, it does not have to mean your life as an individual ceases or stops. Speak up and make sure your desires and goals are heard. Work together on a plan on how each of you can achieve and accomplish your goals. Respect each other and love each other. Be patient and kind. Collaborating and cooperating will provide your children and others a nice blueprint to follow. Do you like this podcast? Be sure to tell a friend or family member about Strive for More. The way you support me is through downloads, likes, and shares. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, strive_4.more. Continue to strive for more and live your best life now. See you in the next episode.